and that it is wrong for a woman to even come out and say she doesn't want to get married. And I'm here to tell women that you have a choice to procreate. You have a choice to marry or not to marry. I wasn't raised with fear. I wasn't raised to be quiet when things are going wrong. I wasn't raised to have a muted voice. Shocking truths nobody tells Nigerian women in 2025. Yes. Happy International Women's Day. Yesterday was Women's Day, and I just thought to drop this here before I go off to the farm. Well, growing up in Nigeria, we're taught to be quiet. A typical Nigerian home with women, we're taught to not speak when we are spoken to. We're taught to bear our pains in silence. We are taught that a woman with a voice is a wild woman. We are taught that women are meant to be seen and not heard. But I was raised by a man who taught different. I was raised by a man who would tell me to amplify my voice higher when I feel like I'm not being heard. And let me tell you a personal story. A beautiful experience. I had a very beautiful childhood, but there were things he imputed in me that really conform with today's warped view of today's society. Guys, please watch to the end of this video. If you have a sister, a daughter, or if you're a woman, or anybody, man and woman, should watch to the end of this video. So growing up, you're a woman, but you should know what a man knows, just in case the man is not there. And this is where I'm coming from. And so I learned how to ride a car with a manual instruction. This manual, gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, you send it back, you hold the clutch. Not because there were no automatic cars out there. We had automatic cars, but he wanted me to learn the manual so that whenever I drive the automatic, at the back of my mind, I can be equipped for in case. So that was how I was raised. I was raised to know that a woman's voice should be amplified. He taught me, I remember growing up, I would wonder why he was so hard on us was because of to read. When you keep saying read, I expect the best from you. I expect you to excel. He was harder on us than on my brother. Because he felt like for a woman, living in Nigeria, we're a bit disadvantaged. So he wanted to equip us with everything to make you strong, because he felt like we needed help the more. Then I didn't understand it, but now I do. There was a significant incident that happened in secondary school. I went to a boarding house, and in the boarding house, a group of girls committed an offense. I think they actually jumped the fence to get either to buy something or a contraband, and jumped back. I went to a Catholic school, Our Lady of Fatima College, and I remember it was being run by Reverend Sister Rita then, that I think she saw when they jumped back or whatever, but she couldn't get the faces. So she came to class and she mentioned my name and some other girls as the culprits to come to the teacher staff room and receive our punishment. And I remember when the case was so big that they were calling our parents, but I kept on saying I was not among the girls that jumped fence. I was not among the girls that scaled the fence to get contraband. Oh, it wasn't me. But of course they didn't believe me because, when students are put to test or when we are punished, they believe we are lying. And then they called my dad. They didn't give us a chance to explain ourselves. You know how boarding houses are when we are under punishment. And, other parents came, and I remember when they would say, oh, your child did this, your child did that. Before the child could even speak, the parents will shout, to start beating the child. Is that how I taught you to jump the fence, to do this one? They didn't give them the chance to speak. And then they came to my turn, and they told me to come to the front of the classroom, of the teacher's room. And they said, yeah, she was among those, and my dad was there, he was sitting. And because of how I was raised, I wasn't raised with fear. I wasn't raised to be quiet when things are going wrong. I wasn't raised to have a muted voice. And so I said, oh, please teacher, I need to talk. I was not among, and she was saying, shut up, bring down your hand. And I kept on saying, I wasn't among them. And my dad just held up his hand, and he said, can I speak? And everybody was quiet. Even the parents, they were beating their children, they were shouting for their kids. And he said, he looked the principal in the eye. And then he said, I raised my children not to lie. And I believe that ONYINYE would not lie. And then he turned to me and he told me, I raised you to be a better human. I'm telling you, in front of you and in front of these teachers here, did you scale the fence? Did you join those people to scale the fence? I looked at him. It was only me and him, eyeball to eyeball. No other teacher was involved in this. It was like the room held just me and my dad. I told him, Daddy, I did not jump the fence. I did not scale the fence. I wasn't even among them. This is a case of mistaken identity. And then he turned back to the principal. The room was quiet. It was like a pin couldn't drop. And he said, I know my daughter. If my daughter says she did not scale the fence, she was not among the culprits that jumped the fence, she didn't do it. And there was a silence first before they started talking. I was like, no, sir, you don't know these children. They are liars. And he said, not the daughter that I trained. Because see, at that point in time, there's a confidence that you give to your child. And he held me. There's a word that you say to your child, which means he held me between the heavens and the earth and saying, say the truth. He taught me to say the truth when he is there. That although he would punish me, but the truth will set you free. The teacher said, don't worry, let me investigate. And then for the first time, they gave other students, the room to speak, which was supposed to be. And they started asking, they asked, and 4 of them said she was not among. The classroom was quiet. She was not among. No, she was not there. No, and they kept on pressing. Are you sure? Because I saw her pass. She said, no, she was not with us. She tried to trivialize it by saying, oh, okay, sorry about that. You can go back to class. And my dad said, no. You should have given her the audience to speak before punishing or flogging children. You should have given her the audience and the trust first to speak, and then you investigate before calling me here. I was in the staff room. I went to Our Lady of Fatima College. People who went to that school or who were my set, if you're watching this video, they know my dad. They would have seen my dad on every single day. The room was quiet. You deflated her ego, because if my child was not the child to speak up, she would have kept quiet and taken the punishment or taken whatever you gave her because of a mistaken identity. I was so proud. That is the kind of man that raised me. And that is what Women's Day is all about. Women speaking up. The whole brouhaha, when they were going, one parent drew him aside and said, I learned from you today. And he said, always build a confidence in your child. Either girl or boy, but he was particularly on the girl child. Build a confidence in your child to stand and to talk and to defend herself. And that is what Women's Day is all about. Because the second story I'm about to give, actually 2 stories, one where he defended me and the second one where he saved my life. Because before I get to where he saved my life, this is the bane of Women's Day. A lot of women, especially in this part of the world, in Nigeria, they lacked confidence. They lack confidence because it has been stripped from them during their childhood or during their formative years. They weren't given a voice to speak. They weren't given a platform to shine. They weren't given confidence from their parents the way my dad had that confidence in me. It wasn't instilled in them. And so they grew up timid. They grew up to take the ways of the world. They grew up to be silent even when they are being beaten, even when they are being abused, because they lacked the confidence to speak up because of how they grew. And so on a day like this, I'm here to remind women, and to remind people, people that have fathers, that have daughters, children, sisters, mothers, that you can relearn and unlearn. And that speaking up doesn't mean you're wild. Speaking up doesn't mean you're bad. Standing on your truth as a woman. Speaking up if you are abused. Speaking up if you are hit. Despite fears, backlash from people, speaking up. Having the guts to stand your truths even if you were punished. That is how I was raised. With so much joy, I sit down here and I'm saying, even if it is one person learns from this video, it's a blessing to me knowing that one person can take something away from this video. The issue of marriage. I speak for the greater majority in this part of the world. I am Nigerian and I'm living in Nigeria. There has been this whole allusion that women must marry, and that it is wrong for a woman to even come out and say she doesn't want to get married. And I'm here to tell women that you have a choice to procreate. You have a choice to marry or not to marry. Marriage is a beautiful institution, but it's a choice that you have to make. It's not a choice that is being forced on you by society. It's not a choice that is being forced on you by your parents or people around you. It is your choice to decide how you want to live. And it's so sad that most women in marriages they did not want to be in. Let me put it in bold letters here that marriage is a beautiful institution. I came from a loving home, a well-rounded childhood, but I'm here to say that some women, it is okay if some women do not want to get married. Do not shame them for their choices because they're being shamed. Or when some women say they don't want children, they're like, why? Why don't you want a child? Who will take care of you in old age? Why are you like this? These and many more are the reasons some women are forced to enter into the institution, are forced to procreate. These and many more situations. But this is 2025. And that brings me to my next story, my dad. One day, I was once engaged, but I had a boyfriend then who engaged me, and I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the need. At that point in time, I felt like I was being choked. I felt like I was being strangulated. And I remember everybody rejoicing and, oh, you're engaged, but I wasn't there. And so I came to the only person I could talk to, which was my dad. And I sat him down. I was also happy. I told him, you're happy about the engagement. I told him, Daddy, I do not feel like this. I do not think I want to get married. I don't know if I will change my mind in the future, but I'm speaking for now. This is how I feel. And I know that I am disappointing you by saying this. And my dad stopped me. He said, if it is how you feel, my child, I would not force you into a marriage you do not want. These women, you need to understand the confidence that's given to somebody from childhood. Please give it to your children. Please relearn and unlearn that it is not a do or die affair. Listen to them, guide them. The basics he gave me was a good education. He demanded that I read. I read my ass up. If you went to my school, my university, my dad will come to school every term to make sure that I am reading, to make sure that I'm showing up in class. I had straight A's in school. I came out with a second class upper division because of my dad, because he would tell me, the only thing I'm sending to you is for you to read. Because he knew that coming out, you needed to shine. You needed to hold yourself up in the society, married or not. It doesn't take away the worth of a woman. These are the lies and the rules brought up by the society. If women are truthful to themselves, really deep, and talk to themselves, a lot of women are in places they shouldn't be because of societal pressure. Raised by a man who gave me the wings to fly. I was raised by a man who taught me to think and know before you speak. I was raised by a man who taught me to hold my own, even if my opinions might stand different. And this is what I'm pouring into this video. If you're a woman and you're watching me, your voice is your amplifier. Your voice, speak out if you're being abused. Leave when love is no longer served. You're not meant to endure, but you're meant to enjoy. Be kind and be gracious to other women. When they come to you, that word is well, oh, they only want to talk to you. You're seeing a woman down, she's coming to meet you. Give her encouraging words, but do not bring her down. This is what Women's Day preaches. This is what International Women's Day serves as. It serves as a reminder to us all. I wanted to further my studies because my dad said there was no need for me to further my studies. I am a woman. This statement is not new to me or you watching this, but this is the reality of many women in Nigeria. And I'm here to say that, dear women, this is 2025. You have the capacity to read if you want to read. You have the capacity to bear children, to marry, and to own businesses if you want to. Somebody else's ambitions must not be your ambition. You are not too much. You are not too ambitious for a woman. There are women that are breaking boundaries. I'm so happy to see lots of women breaking boundaries. Look up to those kind of women. Fight for your rights. These are the subtle way we fight for our rights. For my own self, I didn't have an issue because of, like I said, my dad. To him, do you, but excel. Do you, but excel. Read, harness yourself, gather yourself, because having a little bit of finance propels you as a woman. In as much as it is a bitter truth we have to say, but we have to say it. Having money, having independence, and where does that come from? It's either from reading or having a business of your own, or you're working a 9 to 5, no matter how small. It helps your choices to survive in a country like this, to survive in a place like this. What is one lie you were told about being a Nigerian woman? For me, the one lie I was told is a woman's education ends in the kitchen. That's the biggest lie of the century. A woman's education, we're not bred to serve men, literally. We are human beings. A woman's education far outseeds the kitchen. Another lie that they also told is a woman's worth is tied to marriage in Nigeria. There's so many times I read on the internet about people that are being, women that are being abused and are ashamed of coming out to say they are abused. You have no reason to be ashamed. Yes, I know in a country like Nigeria, it's quite hard because we live in a patriarchal society where we get our voices drowned. But I'm here to say that you owe it to yourself to fight because some women win. The times are changing. Look around you. Things are changing. So I want us all to evolve with the changing times. There's another thing I want to talk about my childhood, which also made a significant impact in my life. So I went to Nigerian Navy Secondary School in Port Harcourt, and I remember one time I was having serious pains. These pains could not stop, and it was during our exam period. And I would report to the matron. I'd be like, please, I'm having pains. And they told me I should go to the school hospital. The school hospital did not see anything and just treated me, casually. And I kept on having those pains. And then I went to my guardian. Those days we had guardians, which if you wanted to call your parents, your guardian would use the phone to call your parents. So I told him, please call my dad, because he's the only person I know that would believe me. And then they called my dad. Within 2 hours, my dad was in school. And he said, ONYINYE, what is wrong? I told him, Daddy, I'm having serious pains. These pains, I can't read, I can't concentrate. But the doctors in the school hospital said nothing is wrong with me because they didn't check. They just dismissed a child and called it exam fever that I'm scared of. And I'm scared because of the exams, and that's why I'm having imaginary pains. And my dad looked at me and told me, ONYINYE, are you really in pain? And I told him, yes, I am in pain, Daddy. He now told them, I'm taking my child to the hospital out of school. And they were like, no, don't. Look, students, there's nothing we've not seen. Some of them will start vomiting here. Some of them will start rolling on the ground here. Women, ignore them. And he said, don't worry. Let me go and check. Let her do a scan. Even if she's lying, which I know she is not, I cannot ignore this. For ONYINYE to say this not once, not two times, not 3 times here, she's really down. And then he took me out. People of God, I know why I am calling names of hospitals, I'm calling names of school, because I am verifying a truth that is my truth. He took me to the hospital. I lay down before a doctor. Then I went to Sonovel Medical Hospitals in Port Harcourt. The doctor just pressed my tummy. It took 10 minutes of observation for them to say, we are taking her to the theater. I was almost having a ruptured appendix. By the time I went for surgery that day, the day I came from school, because I had to wait till night because they asked me if I'm eating, and I said yes, and they were contemplating the time before I was only 12 years old, or 13, when I went for my first surgery, appendicitis. And that's because a man listened to me, a man who raised me with confidence, who raised me to talk, who raised me to believe in me, even when others were doubting, believed in me and said, take her to the hospital. I will carry her. And after the surgery, they brought out my appendix. It was white. It was so enlarged, they put it in the bottle. My dad came back to school. He never lets anything go. He came back to school to show them and said, this girl was almost dying. If I did not answer her call, or if I did not respond to her, her appendix would have ruptured. And it would have been another state. People would have told me another story. Oh, sir, we lost your daughter. Learn to listen to your children. Learn to build your females with so much confidence needed to thrive in this world. Learn, because when you are brought up in a certain way, whatever anybody tells you outside, you're not seeing. Whatever insults are being thrown at you on social media, you don't care. Because your home, where you're coming from, you're loved. You have somebody that you talk to, that the person says, it's okay, I'm fine, come and talk to me. You might not have had that growing up, but you can teach that. You might not have had that growing up, but you can build that. Instances, so many stories from my childhood on how I grew up. I could ride a bike, I was cycling, I was riding horses, because that's my dad for me. He would tell me, be unlimitless. The first freedom I got was from a man who told me that women are unlimitless. You can be who you want to be. You can have a choice. You have the choice to either procreate or not. You have the choice to choose how you want to give birth, either through cesarean, through vagina, through adoption, through surrogacy. The choice is yours. You are allowed to breastfeed in public because your child is hungry. You are allowed to reach for the stars as high as any man if you want to read or you want to further your studies. A woman can inherit. A woman is not limitless to anything. And so today, this video is to remind people, is to encourage women to keep pushing, to be limitless. Do not never give yourself that boundary that I'm a woman, so I can't reach for this. Nope. Your voice should not be stifled. Sometimes we go to hospitals, we complain about menstrual pain or, things happening with our hormones, and we hear, let us hear what I beg. Are you the first? What do you bring to the table? We hear a lot of things like that, but you bring so much more. I've been among women that have given birth. I've seen it raw. I've seen the pain. I've seen so much sacrifices. Some of my friends, they lost their teeth. I'm telling you, their teeth fell down due to lack of calcium. Some people have hip dysplasia. Some people have pelvic pain. Some people have back pains. There are a lot of things which I cannot say because it's not for this video that I have seen as women. And all we ask for is just the basics. The basic platform to fly. The basic platform to express ourselves without being diminished, without being talked down, without being abused. And so the reason I'm saying these stories from my childhood is to tell women who have children, who have daughters, that you start from the home to build a woman up. For some women who did not grow up in that, they acquire that confidence. They acquire that voice. Please, you can acquire it. You can acquire that confidence. You can acquire that voice to speak out when you feel subdued, especially when you are in your rights. Dear woman, you are allowed to live your best lives, whether living in luxury or not, you are allowed to. Your worth is not tied to a man. Please, your worth is in yourself, your self-love, your self-expression. To prioritize your self-being, self-care, self-love. You are allowed to sit down and profess yourself in different ways, like how I am doing without fear or favor. Dear woman, you are allowed to fly. You are allowed to live. Do not feel sorry for earning your worth. Do not feel sorry for being an intelligent, amazing woman. Do not feel sorry for living free. Do not feel sorry for bearing your pains and speaking out when you should. Do not feel sorry for flying. For this message, it's a whole lot. This is just a part 1 of this message. Today is International Women's Day, and I decided to just concentrate on women today. For I don't know who might be watching. Your story is not over. You own your life. You own your world. Make it a safe haven. Happy International Women's Day. May we continue to accelerate. May we continue to push. May we continue to move, for we are stronger together. May we continue to give the next woman hope by sharing our stories individually in any way you can. I'm new on YouTube. I'm so blessed to be here, and I feel so blessed to share my pains and my joys to whoever watches or will watch this video. Thank you so much for sticking to the end. Please don't forget to subscribe and share my video. Thank you, and see you next time in 2 days.